Today, we're diving into a question that's been gaining serious attention. Why is BRICS suddenly running everything? That might sound like an exaggeration, but stick with me. Because by the end of this video, we'll unpack the data, break down the strategy, and reveal something that's getting harder to ignore. BRICS, now expanded and more unified than ever, is becoming the core of a new global era, both economically and politically. Have you noticed a shift? It's subtle, but massive. For decades, Western power shaped the global order. Now another force has been rising, quietly, steadily. Forget the old image of BRICS as fractured and slow-moving. What we're seeing now is a real shift in power. And it's not just about high-level diplomacy. It affects everyday life, from grocery prices to global trade deals. This isn't just hype, it's grounded in real data. We'll look at reports, expert analysis, and what's actually happening on the ground. So let's challenge what you thought you knew, because the world is changing fast. We start with a powerful fact. BRICS has grown, not just in size but in influence. Originally made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, BRICS has expanded to include Iran, Egypt, the UAE, Ethiopia, and as of early this year, Indonesia. Beyond full members, partner nations now include Belarus, Bolivia, Cuba, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Thailand, Uganda, Nigeria, Algeria, and Pakistan. This isn't just a growing list of countries. It's a sign that more nations see BRICS as a serious alternative, a real counterweight to Western institutions. BRICS Plus, the expanded version, now represents over half of the global population. 6 of the 10 most populous countries are members. That gives BRICS real geopolitical weight. It can now claim to speak for a huge portion of humanity. The old narrative that BRICS is divided and ineffective, that's falling apart. But raw numbers aren't everything. Real power comes from economic strength. Let's talk numbers. In terms of purchasing power parity, adjusted for cost of living, BRICS accounts for 35% of global GDP, outpacing the G7's 30%. Some estimates put BRICS Plus at over 41% of global GDP. This isn't a projection, it's the current reality. The global economic center is shifting, and it's happening fast. And with economic weight comes influence, especially in the industries that power the global economy. So what has BRICS actually done? Let's get into the details. First up, food security. Together, BRICS nations produce nearly half of the world's grain. Think sugarcane, maize, wheat, rice, palm oil, and potatoes. These are major staples. The creation of the BRICS Grain Exchange is a game changer. It allows member countries to trade in their own currencies, bypassing the US dollar and Western financial systems. That means lower transaction costs, more trade stability, and a system that's more resilient to sanctions. With Russia and Brazil as major food exporters, and China and Egypt as major importers, BRICS is becoming a dominant force in global food trade. Some experts argue BRICS now has a responsibility to fight food market monopolies and push for fairer, more balanced global supply chains. Now let's talk energy. BRICS includes 5 of the world's top 10 oil producers, and with its new members, BRICS Plus could control up to 42% of global oil supply. That's almost half the world's oil. OPEC Plus still sets prices, but the long-term implications of this shift are huge. On top of that, Russia is building nuclear power plants around the globe, in Egypt, Hungary, Brazil, Bangladesh, Turkey, and Nigeria, extending BRICS's energy influence far beyond oil. Next, manufacturing. BRICS Plus is investing heavily in tech and infrastructure, transforming their manufacturing sectors across industries, cars, electronics, textiles, pharmaceuticals. And it's not just scale. They're integrating automation and AI to modernize production. These are forward-looking, tech-driven industries, not yesterday's factories. China, for instance, is a global leader in iron production, shaking up iron ore and steel markets. Finally, we get into strategic territory, the battle for critical minerals. BRICS is gaining control over essential resources, rare earth elements and critical minerals that power EVs, clean energy, and AI. BRICS countries now hold 72% of the world's rare earth reserves. Demand for these materials is exploding. China saw this coming and invested billions into African mining, especially in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the world's top source of cobalt. Cobalt is crucial for electric vehicle batteries. Here's the twist. American companies once dominated cobalt mining in the DRC, but they sold their stakes to Chinese firms. Now, China holds near monopoly power over cobalt and copper in the region. The race for Africa's resources is intense, and BRICS is playing to win. China got a head start, and it's using that advantage strategically to stay ahead. Within the BRICS alliance, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, a bold new initiative is taking shape. The creation of a BRICS geological platform. This isn't just another scientific collaboration. It's a calculated move to pool research, share advanced technologies, and coordinate long-term strategies for mineral development. The ultimate goal? Sustainable control over the materials that will define the future. Lithium, cobalt, rare earth elements, and more. These are the building blocks of the modern world, essential for everything from electric vehicles to smartphones to clean energy technologies. And BRICS wants to ensure it's not just a supplier of raw materials, but a leader in how they are sourced, refined, and used. When you combine this with BRICS's growing power in food production, energy, manufacturing, and now minerals, you're looking at a formidable concentration of influence, economic leverage that can shape global trends. But this isn't just an economic shift. BRICS is challenging the very structure of the global system as we know it. At the heart of that challenge is the dominance of the US dollar and the global financial institutions that surround it. Institutions often seen as instruments of Western control. Ironically, it was US policy that accelerated this transition. When the Trump administration imposed tariffs and leaned into economic nationalism, the intended effect was to reinforce US financial dominance. But it had an unintended consequence. It gave BRICS and its partners a clear signal. It was time to build something new. That signal triggered a growing trend: de-dollarization. More countries began exploring how to conduct trade without relying on the US dollar. Within BRICS, this shift is already well underway. China, for instance, now settles more than half of its cross-border transactions in renminbi. Russia and Brazil routinely conduct trade in their own national currencies. India is experimenting with similar approaches. And critically, BRICS is working on a new international payment system, one designed to operate independently of SWIFT, the West-dominated global network that connects financial institutions. If successful, such a system would represent a massive step toward financial independence for emerging economies. This isn't about destroying the dollar, it's about creating a multipolar financial ecosystem. One with real alternatives, one with fewer risks tied to a single nation's policies, one with more flexibility and resilience in times of crisis. Why are countries moving this way? Because the dollar, once seen as a symbol of stability, is increasingly viewed as a geopolitical weapon. It can be, and has been, used to impose sanctions, cut off access to global finance, and influence domestic policy from afar. That makes many nations uneasy. If your economy can be throttled at any moment by someone else's political decision, you start looking for alternatives. That's why we're seeing growing interest in digital currencies and decentralized payment systems. Even Europe is beginning to rethink its dependence on the dollar. There's serious discussion about launching its own credit card infrastructure, an effort to make transactions cheaper, faster, and free of US political strings. At the center of this movement is China. Its infrastructure is already in place. Its partnerships are expanding. Its currency is gaining traction globally. And its vision is clear. A new global order where economic sovereignty isn't dictated by the policies of a single superpower. But BRICS's growing influence isn't confined to Asia or Latin America. Africa is becoming a major part of this transformation. Over the last quarter century, the continent has gradually turned away from the West, particularly the United States, and toward China and BRICS. In sub-Saharan Africa, public sentiment tells the story. China is favored over the US by roughly 3-1. Why? Because while the West is often associated with conflict, conditional aid, and interference, China is building. Schools, hospitals, roads, ports, airports, concrete infrastructure that directly improves lives. In contrast, the US is frequently seen as a destabilizing force, heavy on rhetoric, light on tangible results. When the Trump administration cut aid to South Africa over its land reform policies, the effect was counterproductive. Instead of influencing policy, it pushed South Africa closer to BRICS, reinforcing the view that China and its partners offer a more respectful, hands-off approach to development. China's Belt and Road Initiative, combined with BRICS-led investment, offers African nations a chance to develop on their own terms. No lectures, no sanctions, no regime change agendas. Just trade, infrastructure, and partnership. In many African countries, that approach resonates deeply. What we're witnessing is a global realignment. More nations are turning away from the old Western-dominated global order and looking for something new, a system that offers them more autonomy, more respect, and more opportunity. The upcoming BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro this July could mark a pivotal moment. On the agenda, strengthening internal trade, deepening technological cooperation, and expanding the bloc's membership and influence. This isn't a side conversation anymore. It's a major axis of global power. As Alex Christoforou recently put it, BRICS is laying down the foundation piece by piece, constructing an economic and political system that can stand independently. Is BRICS suddenly running the world? No, not yet. But this isn't sudden. It's been building for years. And now the shift is becoming undeniable. In food security, energy access, mineral wealth, and financial independence, BRICS is leading. Africa's growing alignment gives it even more momentum. And ironically, the very tools the West used to maintain control, sanctions, tariffs, and financial isolation, have only served to accelerate this movement. We are entering a multipolar world. A world of new voices, new trade routes, new alliances, and new rules. Supply chains are shifting. Prices are moving. Political alignments are changing. And the old assumptions no longer hold. So stay informed. This is one of the most important shifts of our time. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your perspective. Thanks for watching.